Today, on Breaking News at 6, why do dogs wag their tails? Wait, this just in. Laser eye surgery does in fact work. Now to our field correspondent, John Borg, for some more information. Every day, millions of Canadians go about their plans suffering the wrath of poor vision. Whether it's a problem with near or far sight, over half the population suffers it. So the question to be asked is why?
Breaking news at 6. Reporting live from all around the world. With your host, John Borg.
The fundamental principles of laser eye surgery cover two main areas, as there are two popular treatments in broad terms. The first treatment is a surface treatment called PRK. Basically, what they do here is focus the laser on the top of the surface. There's a layer on the surface of the eye called the epithelium. This layer changes and reshapes every 7 to 14 days. This is why no permanent work can be done to it. Therefore, they gently remove this layer and apply the laser to a much more permanent layer of the eye. Secondly, we have the LASIK procedure. This is a lot more popular now. Basically, the surgeon creates a very small flap on the tip of the cornea. This is later on folded over. Next, they apply the laser to the center of the pupil. This allows it to reach down into the lens where it could shift and remove tissue. According to specifications, that is. Now, the flap is returned back to its original position where it is all set to regrow and heal. Now, John, when would a patient choose or use any of these particular surgeries? Well, Jim, considering that in the long run the results will be identical, it truly does not matter. However, the only difference is that with LASIK, it takes a little bit less time to heal, considering that only the edges of the cornea must grow back. This is different with PRK, as the entire surface of the cornea must grow back. Regardless, within 3 weeks' time, the results will be identical. Then after that, it just comes down to personal preference. Now, John, that was a great description. However, you didn't quite describe how the surgery works and how it will improve a patient's vision. Why, yes, Jim. While looking at this diagram over here, it is very clear to see that the retina is what receives an inverted projected image at the back of the eye. This is why opticians must remove or shift the lens in order to control the amount of visible light let into the back of the eye. Therefore, surgeons do this until the image is perfectly aligned with the edges of the retina. Wow, the complexity of this surgery is just mind-blowing. Well, actually, Jim, that's where you're wrong. This surgery is actually not very complex at all, as it's one of the shortest and easiest surgeries that can be performed. This surgery clocks in at an impressive 30 minutes. Also, the success rate is literally through the roof. In fact, many surgeons have even quoted that it's easier than putting in contacts. Well, John, right out of pure curiosity, what kind of laser is used for this particular surgery anyways? Well, Jim, there are actually two different types of lasers. The first is a surface laser, which is usually used with PRK. This is called exclaimer. It's an extremely short wavelength, at about 193 microns. This ray falls under UV or ultraviolet rays. This particular laser is not one steady beam, as it quickly pulses several hundred times a minute. The second laser is called the femtosecond laser. This is actually the laser used for LASIK procedures. This is a much more powerful laser, as it must be able to pass through the iris and the lens with ease. This also explains why the laser is a high-intensity infrared laser with a wavelength under 1 micron. Wow, now that is just truly amazing. But John, what does laser even stand for? Well, Jim, laser is actually an abbreviation that stands for light amplification by stimulated emissions of radiation. Wow, imagine having to say that every single time. But John, this is a little off track. But how does one's vision become poor anyways? Well, poor vision is actually linked with several things. Generally, it's the fact that a person's inverted projected image does not line up with the edges of the retina. However, it is often linked with several other things. For example, a person with extremely glossy eyes tend to have or see not as well as others. This is because your eyes act like a convex mirror and the glossiness will act as a reflector. This means that your eyes will actually reflect more light than absorbed, making your vision blurry and darkened. John, if you have some sort of illness within the eye or the cornea, can you still have this surgery done? No, Jim. Unfortunately, not all people are able or suitable to have this kind of surgery. For example, those that have extremely dry eyes or even a pupil infection cannot have this surgery. In fact, it may even worsen the patient's vision or make them blind. Out of curiosity, John, what are the age restrictions for a surgery like this? Well, Jim, in fact, there are absolutely no real age restrictions for this particular surgery. However, surgeons do encourage the patient to be of the age of 5 or older. This is because at this age or younger, the eye is not fully developed, and any work done would be completely useless, as the eye can be altered naturally. Also, there is no age limit, so this means that you could be 100, get the surgery, and only have to worry about a longer recovery time. Well, that is great news. So overall, what is the success rate for a surgery like this? The success rate for this particular surgery is extremely high, as it ranges from 97 to 98%. In order to define success for this surgery, it's the fact that a patient's eyesight must increase by at least 5 points. For it to be considered a failure, it's the fact that a patient's image must stay exactly the same before and after the surgery. Thank you, John, for such a great description of how laser eye surgery works and why it's great. Next up, why do dogs wag their tails? Find out after these brief messages.